Hey guys, welcome back to the Erin Moffat channel. I hope my sound is working better this time. I put in my headphones probably better. I think last time I didn't have them plugged in all the way and people said they had a hard time hearing. But most people that were on the live show didn't have a problem hearing me. So we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to talk about going back to basics of gold and silver and why we should buy gold and silver. And one of the reasons is the decreasing dollar value. And if you didn't know, the dollar has not been backed by gold since 1971 when Nixon stopped the gold standard.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Because since 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference, all countries had decided to back their currencies with the dollar. And that's because the dollar was backed by gold. So instead of giving people gold when we did deals with other countries, we gave them our dollar because it was as good as gold. But in 1971, other countries were catching on to us printing too many dollars, and they said, we want our gold. Well, we didn't have enough gold to pay the debt, so we said, no, we're going to, Nixon, we didn't say this, right? Nixon said, I'm going to stop the gold standard, and I'm going to try to make everybody believe that we can trust the dollar, and I'm going to defend the dollar against the speculation. And he said it wouldn't change the value, and what did it do? We went into a much faster inflation than we've ever been. And now the dollar is worth about 2 cents of what it was worth in 1913 when the Federal Reserve started, which is really where it began to drop because the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor does it have a reserve. So the thing about gold and silver is the demand is going up. So the value will go up even though silver is being held down. I've done other videos about that. I'm not going to get into that one right now, but silver is being held down. And gold and silver are finite. It lasts forever, endures forever. And that is something that makes something a known quality. Knowing that it endures forever means it's a known quality. We've known that for over 5,000 years. Gold can go through the fire and the storm, and it can go through a tornado or any kind of natural disaster or unnatural disaster, and it survives and it outlives anything. A really good reason to buy gold and silver is because the central bank doesn't want you to know that you should buy gold and silver. The central banks want you to trust the dollar, continue using the dollar, and they want it to go on until it's too late and everybody's rushing for gold and silver and there's none to be had because everybody waited till the last minute to get it. So just knowing that the central bank doesn't want you to have it is a good enough reason to start stacking. It protects your wealth. It's part of intelligent planning. If you're trying to plan and have water around in case anything goes wrong, if you're trying to plan like have guns and ammo, if you're trying to plan to have food, or even if you're just trying to plan a future for your kids, whatever, it's just intelligent planning to have tangible money and not just mutual funds or retirement plans or life insurance, because those things are still just paper. They're still dependent on the dollar. And I'm not saying that the dollar is worthless because we need the dollars. You can do those things. You should do those things if that's something you want to do. But this is the best way to protect all those other investments. And I want people to start thinking about it as an exchange. It's not buying gold and silver. I know I use that word, but I try not to, because it is not buying gold and silver. It is not even an investment. It's an exchange from currency to actual tangible money. Okay, so it's just a wealth exchange, and it could be one of the biggest if we have a crash, because if the dollar does go to zero, you will be the only person who has money amongst just a few thousand people. There will not be very many people who have money because gold and silver will be the only money. And even if you think the dollar will never collapse, even if you say, oh, never going to happen, I'm going to just ride out this storm.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
You still should try to get your mind off of just paper. It's okay to have paper like stocks. It's okay to buy into mutual funds that are based on gold and silver, but you really should also hold it. Now, a good financial advisor who's not just trying to make money off of you would tell you to own 10 to 20%. A okay to poor financial advisor, like some of these Primerica people, in my opinion, they're only telling you to hold 5%. You know the funny thing about those people though, is very few of them are holding 5%. They're saying it. They're talking real estate. They're talking tangible gold and silver, but they're not actually diversifying their portfolio. And they'll use those words, diversify your portfolio, but they're not doing it. They're saying it and they're not doing it. Listen to people who are saying and doing what they're talking about, especially when it comes to gold and silver. There's no harm in owning gold and silver. It is money, right? Because I'm going to tell you, it has a value. The New York Stock Exchange, so if you trust your stocks and your papers and your bonds and your mutual funds and your 401k, you trust all that, then you should trust the fact that the New York Stock Exchange also puts a dollar value on gold and silver, which means you can sell it, you can exchange it, okay? So you can do these things and you can get dollars back. Let's say an emergency happens and you're out of dollars, you don't have any dollars, you don't have a savings account or your savings isn't that great. You can go and sell your gold and silver to a coin shop, or my company buys it back, or you can go to a pawn shop. They'll give you not very good dollars for it, but you can do that. And then you can pay for your emergency. I've never had a savings account of more than $100, and now I have a savings account of thousands because it is money. Now, there are 9 states that allow gold and silver as legal tender. So there are states where you can buy your gas and your food and your clothes and everything with your gold and silver. And because of that, that should tell you something, because we're seeing more and more states legalizing it as legal tender, or allowing it as legal tender, passing a law to use it again. And because, as I talked about in the last video about the Basel III conference, when turning gold back into a tier 1 monetary value, which means it will be worth 100% of its value, means it's going to go way up in price, and everybody's going to have to allow it as legal tender because now it's back as a tier 1 and it will be money again. And so buying things like ETFs, gold and silver mutual bonds, like I said, they're okay, but they're not safe and they're not tangible. You're not holding your gold and silver. An ETF is literally stock in a silver mine. Well, silver mines are closing because the silver is being held down in value, and it's not a high enough price to go in and mine it. So why would you want to buy stock in a silver mine? I don't know, maybe you do, but it's very risky. Protect it with your actual silver, okay? Banks are buying up gold all over the world, big central banks, and they're doing it because they need to cover their butts for when the dollar collapses, and they need to be able to cover their debts and their loans. It's because silver doesn't have the same value price and there's not as much of it. And so they can't cover their debts and their loans with silver because it just isn't going to be enough. So they'll probably use like palladium and gold, but silver will still have a monetary value. It's just that they're not going to use it to try to cover all their loans and debts so that they don't go under. They need the actual, high valued gold and palladium, things like that. So it's all in preparation. It's all in preparation. It's good planning. It's smart planning, smart preparation, but there's also a legacy you can build for your kids and your family. So lastly, another reason to buy gold and silver, and the last reason I'm going to really mention, is Q says that gold will end the Fed. And if you're a QAnon follower and you're a Q believer and you're like me, that means you believe that gold ending the Fed makes perfect sense. You believe that and you understand it because we know why the Fed is doing what it's doing. We know why the Fed is telling us to trust the dollar, and that's why a lot of us are stacking gold and silver, and Q is saying that gold will end the Fed. And if that's the case, why shouldn't we be holding our own gold and silver? And if you can't afford gold, even though it comes in increment, you can buy as small as a gram up to a kilo, right? But a gram is like $40. A kilo is 40,000. But you can buy a gram, but you can buy small bits because that's how you trade anyway. So if the dollar did collapse, you would want even smaller bits of silver, because for small purchases like eggs and bread and milk, you would only want to use like your quarter-sized silver. You would only want to use, your dime-sized silver for certain purchases. So your gold really shouldn't be in huge amounts unless you want to shave some off, to give somebody, or you plan to melt it down and make things yourself. So stay ahead of the storm in all ways, in all preparations, whether it's just a legacy for your family and taking care of them monetarily, whether it's prepping for end times, or whether it's just not end times, but just the collapse of the dollar. Holding tangible gold and silver is going to protect you so much better than anything else. Don't get caught in the storm pretending it was never going to come. Be ahead of it, be ahead of the game. If you're not sure how to do it, I can help you. If you're not sure who to buy from, I can help you with that. And I want you to know, you can start small, or you can get a whole bunch of money and go big and say, I trust it, and put it all in that. But it's just an exchange. It doesn't mean you're losing money. You're actually gaining money. Because if you put your dollars in a safe over 30 years, they're going to be worth less. If you put your gold in the safe over 30 years, exponentially worth more. So you can buy more stuff with it later. And just let me know. I'll help you start now. You can start stacking real money, and it's the first best thing you can do to prepare you and your family for anything that could ever happen in the future. And I am here to help, and I appreciate you being here helping me, listening, commenting, sharing this. So please like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. Click the little bell so that you can get notifications for when I post. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be going live with Red Pill on Friday. Not this Friday, because today's Tuesday, so it's not this coming Friday. It's going to be the next Friday, because that gives us some time to prepare. We're going to talk gold and silver again. We're going to compare gold and silver from the past, from when we were born in 1978 to now, and we're going to compare the dollar the same way. And then we're going to talk about some 5G stuff and a guy that we think might be helping to make that safe. And then we'll talk about what I'm going to be doing on my next video, going back to Morgellons and some actual treatment. I found a physician who is treating this. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be fantastic information. It's going to be great. God bless, guys. See you soon.